Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Bright Investor Office Hours. Happy to have you all here. As usual, we'll go ahead and start off with any announcements for what we have coming out to Bright Investor and any updates or changes. Uh, First off, there was a bug that was brought up to us where you can add lists over 220 as opposed to 250. So that bug has been addressed and is being re-released. I'm happy to announce that BrightInvestor CRM integration, which we've been working on and we plan to release this month. It's ahead of schedule, which is not something I get to say too often. But we are doing our tests of it later this week, and so that is going along very well. As a reminder, that's going to allow you to send leads and information from BrightInvestor directly to your specific CRMs. Those are the primary updates I have from a product standpoint so far. Let's see. Also, while we are getting started into BrightInvestor tonight, go ahead and drop in the chat if you've not already done so in previous meetings, your name, where you're at, what your relation is to real estate, whether you're an investor, a lender, property manager, some other role, and what you're looking for and how other people can help, as there are folks here who are looking to partner and looking to work with other folks. Going to quickly answer Chester's question in the chat. We got, does it include high level for CM integrations? Yes, we are going to be integrating with Go High Level for the CRM integration. Correct. That will be available. Absolutely. You got it. So what I'm going to do quickly is open BrightInvestor and start running through a couple things that I think are useful and interesting. And a couple different use cases. And if anyone has any specific question about leveraging BrightInvestor a little bit more effectively, a little bit of tips and tricks, or anything else that they have a question about inside of BrightInvestor, if you have a deal or a market you want some help in analyzing, please go ahead and unmute yourself or put that in the chat, and I'll be happy to work through with you. Thanks for the introduction, Rich. Appreciate it. Right.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Alrighty here. So I'm going to go through a couple features here as well that folks may not always know about. So when we are leveraging BrightInvestor, just a quick reminder when we have things in here. We don't talk about it too often. I'm gonna play with Phoenix for now. But when you guys are doing your market research, let's say you have something that you want to be able to look up. As a reminder, speed mode does exist, and we don't talk about it too much, but it is still here. So if you're someone who says, hey, every time that I look up appreciation, I always want to look up the median home price as opposed to the average. I always want to look up, this window of time as opposed to anything else. And maybe I'm always interested in doing, this zip code as opposed to, say, the entire city by zip code. But if you know you always want these settings to be your defaults when you're doing a search, you can simply click Save Settings for Speed Mode, and you're going to get this little notification that says that those settings have been saved. So what that means is, moving forward, if I turn speed mode on and then click appreciation, it won't prompt me to do any of the sidebar set criteria. And instead, will skip that entire section and allow me to just start getting my results. So if you don't want to have to do those clicks every time, turn on speed mode and allow yourself to just bypass any of the search criteria and just use your defaults. You don't have to use it, but it is there for you. So if you ever see that option to save settings for speed mode, all you're doing is saving your defaults for the system. I've got a couple questions here. Perfect. Awesome. Next up, when you are looking around BrightInvestor and maybe you're doing maybe you have a property you're analyzing or a lead you're working, highly recommend using the sticky note feature, where simply right click on your map and then click Add Sticky Note, and it allows you to drop just a little sticky note, a little pin on the map. You can say maybe it's a lead, working, you know, doing research, etc. You can take whatever notes you want for that lead. Take it, make it any color you wish, and you can just drop these all over the map. And they're just designed to help you remember what you're doing or take notes and allow you to have a better frame of reference. And when you hover over the sticky notes section on the right-hand side, by clicking this eye icon, you can toggle all of your sticky notes on and off. It's just a nice little feature. It's you don't talk about it too often. It's just one of those nice to know about components when you're leveraging BrightInvestor a little bit more effectively. And let's see over here as a reminder as well. I'm going to flip over to Atlanta. Let's play Atlanta, Georgia. When we are doing searches, right, there are a couple things that can be valuable. So oftentimes we're doing our search for deals. There's a couple main searches that we can do. One of which is for properties that are currently actively for sale. And remember, by using the on market filter, that is how we get properties that are currently listed on market to sell. So, for example, if I was interested in finding a property that I might want to take down, I might look for a property that's currently listed on market that is individually owned by a person, not a corporation, that is also owned by an absentee owner or a landlord. So I can say, show me all the landlords who are selling their properties right now. That it might be a good opportunity for us to go after. And in this case, I have 767 properties in Atlanta that are actively being sold by landlords on market. You know they're all actively on the market because they have this little active tag right here. So let's just say go after this, oh, I don't know, this one. I have this property. Now, first off, as a reminder, when you're here, we can simply click the Zillow listing. Okay. So even though we don't get our data from Zillow, we know a lot of people like using that for a variety of reasons. So when I click Zillow listing, it opens up this property on Zillow that I can start taking a look at. So in this case, we see BrightInvestor, $275,000, $275,000, 1,500 square feet, 1,500 square feet. Property was listed 145 days ago on Zillow, 145 days ago on Zillow. So this was updated today, right? We've got that right there. So we know that this property is being listed by landlord. We know they did a price cut on the 11th. I can go ahead and take a look at the photos of this thing and take a look at it and see it's decently updated. You know, the inside definitely looks nice and rent ready. I mean, that fridge is definitely blocking, unless it's a weird angle. A fridge looks like it's blocking access to that cabinet. So maybe not the best property. Probably why they're doing a price cut on it.
Looks like it's blocking an opening too.
Yeah, it's too. This is a weird property. So it's one of those where we can find things. For example, if I did this, if I just looked on market on Zillow and wanted to say, hey, show me properties that are for sale, I wouldn't know that this is owned by a landlord. I wouldn't know that he put a loan on it. I wouldn't know that this guy bought it with a VA loan a few years ago and was owner occupying it at some point. Right? I wouldn't know that this guy then moved to Jonesboro, Georgia, and is no longer living there. Right? I wouldn't know those things. I wouldn't know that the owner of this property, in addition to this asset, also owns 3 other properties in Georgia. I wouldn't know those things. And I can see that 2 of them are actively listed for rent. So we don't always talk about this, but BrightInvestor can see properties that are listed for rent on the MLS. So we can see that this property is currently listed on market for $1,450, and this one's being listed for $1,350. It's a
It
little like,
says off market
yeah, so the property is not for
John,
sale, but we know that it's being listed for rent.
and it's
So we're able
it's
to
not
find
rent.
something like that.
Yeah, I don't see where you find that.
Yeah, so for this property right here, like for example, it's showing like a valuation of 1450 or situation. Here we go. So what this is doing is saying, hey, we looked at this property and we saw the last time it was the last time that this property was marketing itself was not for sale but for rent, and we can look at those numbers leveraging this 1350 to 1450 information. So that's all it's saying it's doing here. But we know this guy owns
Okay,
a
so
couple different properties
it's
in
not a
town.
vacant prop. It's not a vacant property.
Not necessarily, no.
Okay, I thought you were
So,
saying it was vacant. Okay.
oh, no, no, no. So then, in addition to this notes section, when you guys take notes in BrightInvestor, these do save. So if I come back a week later and I take notes here and I say, um, potential lead, may want to offer, oh, I don't know. You guys see my screen like refreshing? You see like this little like black line that's like reloading every time I type? No, that is BrightInvestor saving your text. So what that means is that if I leave this screen and I go somewhere else and I come back, BrightInvestor will remember all the notes you've taken and keep them for you. Then when I come to my sale comp section and I look at properties nearby, that's when I can start saying, okay, this property is a 2-bed, 2-bath. I know that in this area, the average price per square foot is about 242 bucks a foot right now, and days on market about 75. So I know this property's been on the market for a lot longer than it's supposed to be. I know the median home price in this area is about 206,000. So I've got something interesting going on here. I have a home that's 1,500 square feet. The median price per square foot is 242. That would make this property worth $363,000. Clearly, it's not selling for that. And the median home price in this area is 206,000. This property is definitely not going for 242 a foot. So something about this property is off. But why this property is selling so far below the average price per square foot? The reason, almost guaranteed for that, is because it is a townhouse. It is not a single family home. Townhouses typically do not sell at the typical price per square foot of other assets. So we have to account for that in our analysis as we're doing this whole process. Now, I might come here and say, hey, it looks like this property is going to rent for about 2,600 bucks. So when I come to my deal analyzer and I say, okay, great, I'm going to pay, oh, I don't know, we'll say 2K in taxes, we'll do 2K in insurance. If I bought this for 275 at today's rents, popped in a property manager for, we'll say 10%, maybe hold back 3% for repairs, 3% for vacancy, and 3% for CapEx. If I put 20% down at today's rates, I'd make a little bit of money, but not quite what I want to make. So now I just start working backwards and say, what purchase price makes it worth it for me? And I like to see between a 8 to 10% cash on cash return. So I'm going to adjust my purchase price, and now offering this guy $230,000 for this property is where the actual numbers start to make sense for me to take this down. And that is net to me as the buyer. So if I'm working with a client or if I'm working with myself or my partners on this, I'm going to say, hey, even if we zero out our repairs, vacancy, and CapEx, we're actually making approximately $632 in our net income. But if we are, oh, that's more people coming in. Whoops. If we are wanting to see what our gross income is on or a gross profit on a monthly basis, I'm actually sitting at around, 400 bucks a month, which is still a decent deal. So this is where I go out there and say, I think we should offer $230,000 on this as a rental, and that's what makes sense. And because we know this is an out-of-state landlord, we know he does not live there. We know the property is twice on the market length that it should have been. The population is going crazy right now, and the income is going crazy in this area. So it's a really quickly growing spot. It's very, very, very attractive. My opinion, this area is on sale. Our home prices are down right now, but the population income growth is going up so crazy. This is the time to buy properties at a steal. And I'd really lowball this guy. But that's one thing we can do, like find on-market properties that we might want to buy, or maybe if you're a property manager, look for on-market properties for landlords saying, hey, look, what if you didn't sell it and we just kept it as a rental for yourself? The second thing we can do is start looking for buyers and say, hey, who are all the active people who are transacting in this area at a given time? I don't know why it's doing that. Say, show me every person in the last year who bought a property for cash. So when we're saying, I want to know we had some people ask about a previous session, how can I find where other investors are buying properties? This is one of the ways we can do it with what BrightInvestor currently has available. And simply say, I'm going to draw a boundary using our draw boundary feature. And let's say I want to look at the entire area of Atlanta, this entire MSA, huge area, right? What I'm simply going to say is show me where are absentee owners in the last 12 months buying properties for cash. And I do that search. And everywhere that I see these properties is where a landlord's been buying in cash in the last 12 months.
Wow.
So we had some people talk about how can I figure this out? Oh, it's a lot of data here. Let it load for a second. Very clearly, we all start to see some trends, right? There's a very little transactions happening in this kind of northern corridor until we get to northwest Atlanta. Then tons of transaction, lots of activity, all the way from north of Highway 20 up to Town Lake and Highway 92. Lots of cash buyer activity over here. Those are 1,000 properties here, so give BrightInvestor a chance to breathe for a second. But this entire area, this kind of whole diagonal, if you guys can see my mouse where I'm going here, lacks investor activity. Then it starts to pick up again as we go more towards southeast Atlanta in this direction and going further south. But the absolute most prolific part of investor activity is currently happening in northwest Atlanta. Now, of course, I get curious and I say, I want to know who those people are. That's when we can start adding these properties to lists and saying, who are the cash buyers who show up the most frequently in these areas? Those are professional investors we might want to partner with, we might want to contact and get an idea of who's buying what and where. It's also a great idea to see what kinds of properties are people buying. And the third thing we can do is simply search for off-market opportunities, which are kind of our bread and butter, and saying, why don't we look for every off-market property that is owned by maybe an individual or maybe a corporation or someone that is owned by a high equity owner, someone who has maybe is free and clear and has no debt, right? What's the value of contacting someone with high equity or being free and clear? Well, if you're going to do a seller finance deal, creative finance, or property management contract with that person, the lower their mortgage, the less they owe, the more likely they are to cash flow, the more likely they are to be able to work with a creative seller situation. Also, folks who have high equity and are free and clear on properties typically have been in them for a long period of time. They might be willing to cash out and move on, and might be someone who we can transact with. Now, one of my other favorite filters, of course, is our property owned filter. And oftentimes we'll find people who like using the year built filter to find properties that were built after a certain year. So to avoid maintenance and rehab issues, like for example, lead disclosure, I think was it 74 or 78, or any property built pre-19, I think 78, if I'm not mistaken, has to have a lead disclosure. So sometimes people like buying properties that are 1980 or newer just to be able to avoid having to deal with older situations and older problems that you inherit, which we can now filter for. So those are kind of the three things we can filter for and search for when we're on our search deals section, both on market properties, people who've been buying properties, checking out investor activity, and then going ahead and looking for opportunities for ourselves, which I just wanted to point out to people as a reminder of what is possible when we're leveraging the system. And also wanted to quickly talk about our.
Thanks, Chester.
Oh, whoops, you got a question here. Went into effect in 79. Yep, thank you, Chester. Appreciate that. Yeah, it is right around that time things got crazy. So
And in the early 70s, late 60s, you got to watch aluminum wire.
yep, aluminum wiring. And additionally, at the top of aluminum wiring, you have galvanized plumbing, cast iron, and polybutylene are all older home materials we typically try to avoid due to the propensity for those things to leak, to rust, to cause breakage, and other leaking issues. So newer properties can go ahead and make things a little bit easier for us. Now, one thing I think is interesting is I was showing you guys how we can find where other investors or where people are having a lot of activity. But what we can do is do the same thing I did before, but then we can get more specific and say, where are the individual investors buying, right? So where are people who bought in the last 12 months for cash that are buying in their own name? Where were they buying properties? Oh, it's a lot of properties. Okay, give me a second. That's way too many. We're gonna pull back off that. Let's do
6 months.
individual cash buyer last year, and they have to have at least owned, we'll say, two other properties. And oh wait, landlord. I didn't put on absentee owner. There we go. Okay, this is gonna be better. Okay. So here are the people who own at least two properties. Here's where they've been buying them in cash in their own names. Then I'm going to turn off individual and look at corporate owned. Show me where the corporations are buying. And so I look to see if there's any difference, right? I see here and I see here. Now, when I do this search and see where the corporation's buying, see if there's any difference.
Can that come up in different colors
It could.
so you can compare one to the other?
It's a good idea. I'll talk to the team about that. That's a good idea. You'll note corporations are buying in somewhat similar areas. They're still buying up here, they're still buying up here. There's also this little smattering right down here, which I think is interesting. Also, a couple more properties up here in Duluth. So I had to see where are where are different types of investors buying, right? Where are different transactions happening uh, across the city? And then we can filter those things by such as multifamily versus single family, right? And add all those different criteria to get an idea of what's going on and where. Alrighty. Let me go ahead and clear my map of all of those drawings. There we go. Perfect. So we can start to get a really good idea of what's going on in an area and where we're seeing things tracked. Because then, of course, I see there's a lot of activity over here in Marietta, and I instantly start thinking, okay, great, people are buying over here. Maybe I should start taking a look at what's going on here from a appreciation standpoint. Say, hey, what are people doing here? Like, what's the big idea when it comes to home prices and appreciation? So I'll do an appreciation check for that area, right? And I'll say, okay, looks like over the last couple of years that in this particular part of town where investors are buying, home prices are up about 45%. So they were trending up very nicely for several years, had a huge spike and a bit of a fall off. This area is actually down 34%, whereas the other areas in town are up 73%, 44%, 44%, 116%, and more. So the median home price in this area of this entire city is sitting around that $500,000 mark. This is a more expensive area. So we're seeing a more expensive area attract more cash buyers for investment properties, which I find really interesting. So the next thing I do is start getting an idea of the rent to own ratio here. The reason I'm going to do that is because if I see a higher income area that's having a lot of investor activity, I want to know what the demographics are doing. And what we can see is that over the last decade, we went from about 30% of people renting homes in this area to 41%. So you've seen this huge increase from 34,000 units to 84,000 units in the last decade of new rentals, people who've been buying properties to rent. Yeah, Rich?
Well, you have a school there. You have a chiropractic college down in Marietta. So
Okay,
that could be I don't know if there's any other colleges down in that area, but that could be one of the reasons why you have more renters too.
absolutely could be.
Student.
Absolutely. And when we look at as investors, as people who are owning properties for longer periods of time, we generally like to shoot for between 30 to 40% renter occupied. That showcases enough demand with enough supply that allows us to be charging the rents that we want. So when I see that we went from the low end of a threshold to just over the high end of the threshold, there's been a lot of rental activity here over the last couple of years that's consistently added more rental units. Townley, is there an app of BrightInvestor? Currently, no, but we are building out mobile-friendly reports right now, and the goal is to eventually have more and more kind of full mobile-friendly version to allow you to search for deals on the go. It's something we've been toying with for a while, but it is on the roadmap. We're just not quite there yet. It is coming though.
Okay, thank you, Donatello.
Absolutely.
Uh, Donato, question about the appreciation. You had mentioned
Yeah.
the other day, like a mountain formation. Would you say
Yes.
that this one
Absolutely.
is a mountain formation, or could we find one tonight, once you're done with all this?
Yeah. Absolutely. So talking about appreciation, I use a metaphor of waterfall versus mountain range. So a lot of places between 2019 and 2020, 2021 saw what I'm going to call a waterfall. Okay. This is a perfect example of both. Okay. This right here is a perfect example of mountain range. That's the appreciation that you want. Consistently going up, some declines, some increases, but that looks like a nice steady growth. We went from 375,000 to a peak of 479,000 in a period of less than 3 years, right? That is consistent month over month, year over year gains. That's the kind of appreciation that's going to be with us for decades to come. Then some zip codes and some markets see a waterfall event, which I call waterfall because it kind of looks like a little waterfall. It's a very sharp, instant increase that is usually followed by a very sharp decrease. When we see these very quick events of rapid appreciation, that is not the kind of consistent gains year over year that's going to continue to put equity into our pockets. What we want to do is and look at that, right? That's a waterfall, right? Instant waterfall, boom. We want to avoid waterfalls wherever we can. Situations like this are the kind of appreciation that we would be focusing on year over year. That is what we can count on for years to come. Anytime we see, and I like to pick on this market because it's a very easy example of what this means. But Evansville, Indiana, as a market, saw what I would consider a waterfall event during the peak of COVID, where previously, and this takes a second to load here, let it run. This was all beautiful. A little bit outlier here, but look at that. Consistent gains, consistent gains, consistent gains. That is just gorgeous. That's what we want for our portfolios. And then, boom, waterfall event. What the heck happened? Why did this all of a sudden, what? Oh, whoops, hold on. Why did our appreciation suddenly spike? We went from approximately 200,000 to 280. Why did we see a 30% jump in a period of less than 7-8 months? And then, just like always, came back down. We don't want to buy in areas that have seen, or ideally, you don't want to be buying in areas that have seen the majority of their appreciation all happen due to a waterfall event. We want to buy in areas that have seen consistent gains. So if you were someone who bought in Evansville at 270 and then saw your home price or median home prices crater to 190, that kind of sucks. Now, thankfully, since then, we've seen some demand continue to come back in this market, which is great. But anytime we see markets that don't have this mountain range of data backing up their long-term growth, we're going to have difficulties. And anytime we see areas that have relatively flat home price growth, then a massive increase, and then consistent growth afterwards, that's relatively flat. That's a situation of just in COVID era pricing increasing overall and having an inflationary effect on home prices. So look for the mountain ranges, avoid the waterfalls. And that's both on a city basis and a zip code by zip code basis. So if I come over to my friends and I don't know, what market should I do now? Let's do Louisville. Let's do Louisville, Kentucky. Let's find out. All right. If I do Louisville, Kentucky for appreciation over the last several years and see what's going on, I want to get an idea of which areas are seeing the most consistent mountain range level of growth. If the city's experiencing mountain range kind of growth, and get an idea of what's going on here. That, Rich, take notes, please. That is exactly what you want. Everyone, please take a screenshot of that. That's why Rich and I are working on this market as well, a couple other people. That is exactly what you want in a market. That's beautiful mountain range. It is consistent growth month over month, year over year, over long periods of time. No COVID area, massive spikes. It's just beautiful. That's what you want. That is consistency. And then you come in here and you say, great, which zip codes in town are seeing the most gains? And I filter through here and I say, right here. 40211, 40212, 40218 are seeing the biggest gains. They went from 40,000 to 200,000. Now, I don't really want to buy homes that are $120,000 right now. I typically want to play in this area. So I'm looking at this area saying, hey, why did this one grow so much and it's also worth more now? I'm interested. What about these areas that doubled as well? So I'm very interested in this
Yeah.
40218 zip code, which prompts me to come over here and start looking at that one and saying, great, this area is growing really quickly. How have rents been performing? And I'm going to go to my asset type section and say, okay, great. What kind of properties are here? Majority of homes are single family, but a ton of multifamily, lots of multifamily. Again, remember, we like to see at least 10%. If we went 2 to 4 plexes, they should make up at least 10% of that zip code. If we went 5 to 9 unit buildings, they should make up at least 10% of that zip code. The reason we go after 10% is if we're below 10%, we're going to be fighting for very few little inventory, which can cause us to overpay. So when I see all that multifamily, I get excited. And when I look at what kind of bedrooms are common in this area, I see that most properties are 3 and 4 bedrooms. I instantly want to go back to my rent growth and say, awesome. How have rents been performing for 3-bedroom properties in this area that's been appreciating so quickly? Skyrocketing, 25% gains. A little bit of a decline during 2023, but we've been rocketing back. Awesome. What about our 4-bedroom properties? How are they been performing? Even better, mountain growth. I hope everyone is seeing that. That is mountain growth.
Wow.
Consistent, right? That's what we want. That's what we want. We're seeing that kind of growth. Now let me look at my 2-bedroom properties, right? A little bit of rougher on the 2 bedrooms, but we also know there's a lot lower supply of 2 bedrooms, right? It's not really what this market's for. This is for 3 and 4-bedroom stuff. Now I'm gonna go ahead and check out my population growth, and you guys know how I
Are
feel
these for
about this,
homes or
right?
apartments or both?
What's up?
Are they
Okay,
but this is taking into consideration single family homes and multifamily homes rentals?
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Residential markets. So we do see a slightly declining population. Now, we normally don't like this. Like our rule of thumb says, right? We want to see 5% growth over 5 years. This area's been declining. The only thing that can save us is growing income, because growing income with slightly declining population is a telltale sign of gentrification and turning around an area. So I want to see over 15%. And there you go. We like to see at least 15% over 5 years. And we're at over 26%. Incomes are going up much faster. And when incomes are going up, what you have is a cycling of demographics. You have higher income people moving in, lower income people moving out. Home prices here have gone from $70,000 to $250,000. You have people who are moving away to more cheaper areas. So when you see this, this is a
Which
telltale sign of our gentrification. Yeah, Rich?
yeah, I was gonna say jobs, better jobs maybe in this area, so
Absolutely. We
more
can go ahead
income.
and check that out. Let's look at the job market here. Let's see what's going on in Louisville. Job market's up 8% over the last 8 years. And majority of those jobs, you guys can see that. I'll zoom in a second. A lot of those jobs are in the education health services. Their school system and their hospitals are growing. Their construction industry is growing. They're investing in the construction for the city. I see trade and utilities are growing. Only thing that's shrinking is the government. Not a bad thing, you might ask me. And the IT
Yeah.
sector, right? We have telltale signs of growing infrastructure here. This is why I like it. We know what zip codes are also growing. So yeah, absolutely, we're seeing job growth here consistently. Now, again, right, we can see what happened during COVID. The job market went from 700,000 jobs to approximately 580,000 jobs. So a lot of stuff got cut here, but they've made that back, and they've been continuing to grow afterwards. Townley, so we should all look at Louisville, Kentucky. I have a couple BrightInvestor Diamond members I'm focusing on Louisville for these specific reasons. Because I like it a lot. I like what's going on in Louisville. I am a fan. A big fan of what's happening here.
This is awesome. Thank you. I'm loving this demo.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad you're enjoying it. It's like I like doing this because you can start to pull in like all the questions we have as real estate professionals, right? No matter what sector of real estate we're in, we can answer here. We can figure it out. It's all right here. We said plug the pieces in. And so when I come in here and I say, okay, great, I've got this really cool area. I wonder, to Rich's point, how are the schools? They're okay. They're not great. They're okay. So then I wonder, okay, awesome. Are there any charter schools in the area? Okay. Now, are there any private schools nearby? Yes. Okay. I have 6 private schools nearby. Interesting. Okay. Does this area also happen to
Question.
have, oh, yeah?
When they say below average, what are they comparing that to? National?
National. Yeah. It's on a national basis. Correct.
Okay.
So when I look at this area as well, I'm saying, okay, great. People are moving here. Now, typically the franchises we want to be around are for higher income areas, and the income here is only about 52K. So we're going to take a look and say, hey, have any of the larger franchises already moved in, signaling their not recognition this is a good area to be? Or are the Chick-fil-A's here? Yes. Wow, there's 4 of them. Is there a Starbucks here? Yes. Right next to the Chick-fil-A's. Is there a Target here? Yes. Right next to the Chick-fil-A's. Is there a Trader Joe's here? Somewhere. Yes. Oh, yeah, right up there, right by the Chick-fil-A's. Is there a Whole Foods here? Yes. Right by the Chick-fil-A's. I feel like I'm a broken record here.
Gotta
All,
buy
literally
Chick-fil-A.
all of the high income franchises that we like to be around because they spend millions of dollars on looking at their locations. Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Starbucks, Target, and Chick-fil-A are all in this area that's seeing some of the fastest income growth and appreciation and rent growth in the entire city. That should tell everyone here a story, especially when we look at the mountain level growth of what's happening in this area. That is when old Donnie boy says, hey, I want to go buy some property here. Is there any multifamily that I can take down that I might want to go after here? Maybe, possibly. Yes, perfect. I'm going to take a look at some of these. Hey, are there any single family properties I can go after here? Yes, maybe. Are there any decent, we'll call it investor owned properties or that have been owned for maybe 20 years that someone's willing to part ways with? That's also with at least a 3 bedroom because we know that's where the rents are growing the fastest. That also has, I don't know, also lives out of state and also has like 50% equity in their house. Okay, no, I got a little specific there. That's fine. Okay. We'll get less specific. Okay. I'm getting too specific. That's fine. I was asking for a lot there. That's understandable. There we go. We do have some investor-owned properties here that have been owned for over 20 years. And what is this? What's going on here? We got ourselves a nice little 2-story house owned by a guy who's local. He's Louisville. Owned for 23 years. Bought it for 177,000. Oh, he bought it as a brand new build. He bought it from Dominion Homes for $177,000. Estimated to have 67K left on his mortgage. Let's see here. He took out a he took out a refinance of 80K and it looks like he took like a HELOC out or something like that. Look at this property. He's owned it as a landlord for a while now. Looks like it's worth up to 360. Rents for this property are going to be around 2K. I know he only owes about 67,000 on it, so I'm going to say, you know what, I can't buy it for 294. But what I could do is, especially if I'm someone who's looking for a break even or there's like an appreciation play, I'm saying, hey, the most important thing for me is to save on taxes and buy an area with a lot of appreciation. I might come in and say, hey man, I can buy this property from you, but I'm gonna have to buy it from you at, oh, let's say 220. 220, I can break even on this asset and just stick around in an area that I know is appreciating 50 really well. In fact, it's up 50% year over year. And with that kind of income growth and that kind of population growth in this one zip code specifically, I'm interested. Right? I am interested. This would be a great long-term appreciation play for someone who wants to get into an asset, doesn't really care about cash flowing, and just wants to hold on to it. And the fact that it's a 2001 build means you're gonna have lower repairs and maintenance anyways. Townley, can you look into Cambridge, Maryland? I could be convinced.
Thank you. It's just so much easier to watch you do it because I'm new to
Yeah.
this, so it's really beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is an old fishing like sleepy town on the Eastern Shore.
Hmm.
They just got a
Okay.
they just got a Chick-fil-A.
Oh, okay. Well, now we're interested. Interesting. Okay. Interesting spot. So let me check my appreciation here, as usual. I'm just gonna get an idea of what's been going on in this region over the last decade or so. And I don't know. Whenever we have towns like this, I always see a lot of STRs. Um, okay. A lot of volatility here. We're only up about 30, 23% since 2016. We
Mm,
had a waterfall event. You guys see that? How right here
Yeah.
it was pretty much flat,
Cool.
and then waterfall, and then since 2021, home prices have not grown. That's a perfect example of a waterfall, right? So we're at about 300K right now. Okay. We're going to do a quick check on our population growth here, and we'll just do this whole zip code and this whole area. Get an idea of what's happening here as a basis of what's going on. Great population growth, right? Up 6% in the last couple of years, which is awesome. So now I want to check out my income growth and say, are people making more money here too? Hopefully they are. Yep, they're up 18%, which is awesome. Perfect. We're seeing growth in the income and population, which is a win-win for us. Now, most of the properties here in this area are, I'm going to guess single family. Yeah, mostly
hmm
single family. You got a little bit of multifamily, but mostly single family. And that single family is primarily what kind of property? 3 and 4 bedrooms. Okay. A lot of 3 and 4 bedroom single family here. Now, from a rent perspective, we'll see if I have rent growth here. I might. I might. We'll see. Well, I do. Ooh, interesting. Rent's down 11%.
Oh wow.
Huge, huge growth up going to 2024. Then over the winter time, we saw rents start falling back down. I mean, that's a telltale sign of people trying to list these things over, as STRs. I would bet this is an STR area. Anytime you get those small kind of remote towns, with a lot of waterfront access, people always go crazy for Airbnbs. Okay, let's go four. Yeah, even the 4 bedrooms are down as well. Interesting, relatively flat. Now, what I do like is that the 4 bedroom rents here are about 2,500 bucks a month,
Mm.
which is really, really attractive because the home prices here are only 295. So on a rent to price ratio, it's very attractive. So if I come in here and say, show me I don't know, let's just do on market. Show me an on market property with at least 4 bedrooms. Maybe there's one for sale. I don't know. There are. They show me one of these 4 bedroom properties that I know is going to rent for like 2,400 bucks. And I see a 6 bedroom. Well, that's a little bit too expensive for what I want. I don't want to pay that. I don't want to pay that. I don't want to pay that. Here we go. 4 bedroom for 200 grand right on the water, right in downtown. That's attractive. Okay. How long have they owned it? Half a year. Okay, so they flipped it. This is going to be a flip. I guarantee you this is a flip. Hold on a second. Probably may be a flip here. Another one. What about this one? Take a look at this property.
Little tiny thing.
Yeah, this property they just did a price cut 2 days ago. 4 bed, 3 bath,
Nice.
3 bath, 1872, 2005 vintage. It's an owner occupant home. They bought it with an FHA loan, owner occupy 6 years ago. Matthew and Jared. Hello, Matthew and Jared. Okay, and they're selling it 2 story. Why are they selling it? Let's look at the photos here. Looks great. Okay, well that's
Nice
why.
house.
Look at this thing. That's not updated at all. You're gonna
No.
have to do all new counters, all new cabinets, all new appliances. I mean, this looks like, a house that, a grandma would live in. With your interior decoration. The lighting's outdated, the paint's outdated, the flooring's outdated. They bought this with an FHA loan, did nothing to it. That looks like really old carpet. It has great bones though. Like you guys, this would be great for a renovation. You can tell right here. It looks has all the structurals you need to make this a really nice home. Yeah, it just needs to be updated. That's a choice. That's a choice. Okay. Yep. You've got okay, it's kids' rooms. You got the kids' rooms. Okay. Solar
But keep,
panels, huge backyard with the pool. Great for a family. Absolutely. So I come in here and I look at my sale comps. And I'm like, yeah, this thing is worth, they're asking a little bit too much. My rents, well, let me pull my rent comps back here. I already saw my rents were gonna be about 2,400 based on my other data. Yeah, days on market are up right now. Population is up a little bit recently. Income's up a little bit. If I were to buy this thing, if I think it's gonna rent for 2,400 in this area, yeah, I mean, I would probably come in here and say, you know what, I'd be willing to buy it for put in a management fee, drop my repairs, vacancy, and capex. I'm probably gonna have to do like a $30,000 rehab to make this nice. Put a little insurance on there. Yeah, I mean, for me to even break even on this bad boy, I'm gonna be looking at buying it for, I don't know, 225, which is almost 90K less than what they're asking for it right now.
does that take into consideration your rehab cost, your budget?
Yeah, so I put in my $30,000 rehab right here.
Right.
So my
So
so
if
my
you take the
upfront cost
30,000 out, if you take the 30,000 out, what happens?
it decreases my upfront cost and increases my cash on cash return.
Yeah. Goes so quick. It
See,
changes so quick.
we can look, yeah, we can look at this, right? Saying, hey, first floor offers a large bedroom, bathroom with a half bath. So it's only a 1.5 bath, or 2.5, which is really difficult. And then you see, they're giving $10,000 for the carpet replacement. See, I was
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, you see, I know what I'm doing here. And I'm seeing, okay, great. They're saying it's 109 on Zillow. But yeah, I only called it 37, so I'm just going to come in here. I'm just going to update it. So the nice part about having the pencil icon, remember, you can update anything in BrightInvestor. So I'm going to update this to a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, because that's what they're calling it. It's really 4, 2.5, but whatever. Save settings. Now remember, anytime you edit data in BrightInvestor, we will remind you with this little red icon that says you updated the property at this date. So you can always come in here and overwrite anything that you want based off what you're seeing, and we'll remind you that you did it. So when I see that days on market here is averaging 51, this property's at 109, it's time to lowball the heck out of this bad boy.
Yeah, just because it's not appreciating, it still could be a very good cash flowing property.
Could be for the right price,
Right
sure.
price, yeah.
It's
Mhm.
absolutely being treated as an owner occupant, right? This property they bought, and it's got a huge backyard, right, which is great. But this property's been purchased and lived in as a owner occupied situation, not as a rental. So I gotta watch out for those things, especially if I'm only getting $2,400 a month in rent. I really want to be buying homes for around 200 grand, right? So I don't want to be buying this for. I want to be buying a house like this for $200,000. I don't want to be paying $300,000-$400,000 for a property that's only going to rent for 2,500 if I want cash flow. So I'm seeing some really nice homes here. I'm gonna have to go off market. And that's what I'll come up here and say, let's find some off market opportunities that are 4-bedroom properties that are owned by people who've been there for a long time. Individual absentee owners. See how many landlords are rocking up here. Not many. Okay. Let's go ahead and drop this down to 3 years.
Let's see it.
No? Interesting. What this?
Are you looking for property management companies?
No, I was looking for investor-owned properties.
Oh, investor owned. Okay.
Yep. Here's one, 8-bed, 5-bath. Interesting. It just sold too. It just sold like a couple weeks ago.
I have a question.
Hmm.
How come we cannot see the loan information here?
And this one because he bought it free and clear,
Ah,
which means he
okay.
bought it for cash. So cash buyer means they bought it in cash. Free and clear means there's no mortgage on it. So in this case, loan info is blank because he did not buy it with a loan.
Yeah, yes, of course.
Yeah, and so in this situation, right, this is an absentee owner. So this guy who doesn't live there bought it in cash. Oh,
Wait
oh,
a second. Wait a second.
hey, yeah,
The
Rich
seller.
saw the same thing I saw. Edward and Karen became Edward. Hmm. Sorry, what happened here? What
Divorce.
happened here? Let's see. Okay, community services sold this to Karen and Ed like 2 months ago. Then Edward sold it to his LLC. Yeah, okay. So there's been some funny business moving around here. So they're buying it and they're putting it in their LLC's name. They're doing some maneuvering. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Beautiful. Wow.
Doing yep. Large home as is, needs updating. Zoning is not allowed multifamily. I would bet you that this is being bought. Yep, there's his name, Ed Cartwright, bought with his LLC. So this guy's probably flipping this. If I were him, that's what I'd do.
Mm.
Oh, it's beautiful. But like
No
that ceiling
pictures
needs to
interior.
go.
Huh.
The ceiling
I
needs to
love the porch.
go.
Wow.
Yep.
I love
Like
it.
this could look really cool. Like that's okay, yeah, see, that's a problem. You're not supposed to have that in your rooms. Oh, this was a senior. Okay, so the only reason you have fridges like this and a bed like this is when you have someone who's senior that can't get out of bed and has mobility issues. I would guarantee you that this is someone who this house is being owned by someone who's kind of end of life. They had a fridge for easy access to food and drink. Yeah, I don't know why there are so many like prison beds here, but there are. Yeah, paint's peeling. All signs point to someone who's no longer able to take care of the home. Radiator heating. Yep. Work from home office. So someone who's maintaining
Weird
the
ceiling.
house.
What the hell is that?
Again, prison toilet. Again, don't know what's happening here.
Handicap sink.
Yep. And yep,
My
exactly. So
guess,
that's how
my guess is possibly a makeshift assisted
senior living
living
facility.
facility.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Possible. We got water drips, water drips, water drips. You got yep. Oh, I think Chester, I think you're right. We got the library, we got the pool room, you got the gym. Yeah.
I love how
I
you
think
guys are
Chester
putting this
nailed it.
story together.
Yeah. See, Chester, you nailed it. But these bathrooms are horrible. The paint is peeling. The bathrooms aren't back conditioned. These are prison beds. To be clear, there's all these beds everywhere. Chester, you nailed it. This is an abandoned assisted living facility, senior care home.
Yeah. That's
That's why
crazy.
there's so many bedrooms here. Wow,
Hmm.
Well, they can climb the stairs.
that's yeah. The stairs. That stairs are going to be a huge issue for a property like this. I mean, like you just can't have stairs like that if you're gonna have like it's an 8-bed 5-bath property, so it's well built for it. But like that is not where you want your grandma or mom checking in.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like and all these
But this can
bedrooms
also
up
be a
top
pant
are
split.
great
I would say it
porch
could be a
and great
pant split.
great lot.
Yeah. Oh, love it.
It's handicap accessible.
Yep.
Yep. But this is something where, yeah, you could probably pour some good money into it and maybe make it a nicer bed and breakfast situation,
That's nice.
especially with where it's at, right? With this sleepy little town. But yeah, interesting little property.
How much is that one?
They bought it for 190.
190.
Holy crap.
Ain't that bad, considering. But you're probably gonna spend 100 grand
Probably half
renovating
of
that bad
that.
boy.
Yep.
120, 130.
5,200.
mean,
Yeah.
It's a 4,000 square foot property. You're gonna have a lot. You're gonna have a lot to touch.
Yeah.
All right here. All right. Well, guys, we are at the kind of the top of the hour for
Yeah.
what we have going on. I want to say thank you, everybody, for coming to our office hours. As a reminder, this was recorded, and this recording will be available to those who want it here soon. So if you have anyone you feel like that could benefit from the information we covered tonight, feel free to take this recording and send it out to whomever you would like to see it. If you have any questions for me, you can go ahead and email me, Dono@BrightInvestor.com. As we have our newest features being released, you guys will hear from me as well. Again, CRM integration should be live here in the next couple days with our testing widget after that, and then a couple more things coming out as well. Hope you guys really enjoyed yourselves and hope you got some value.
This was awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
great.
you.
Definitely
got it.
appreciate it
Great.
as always, Donato.
Yep.
You got it, guys. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
All righty. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.